23 things that surprised us in Mexico City.
We'll talk about safety, the safest neighborhoods, tipping culture, nightlife, a delicious snack for just 75 cents and where to get it, how to dress for weather, food delivery, and more.
Okay, so the first thing is that we were surprised more people don't speak English. Google Translate has been our best friend, and if you're coming to Mexico City, I highly recommend learning a little bit of Spanish.
A little goes a long way, along with pointing, showing photos. But yeah, I think just to be polite, you start with.
Yeah, so you want to know like the buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches, simple hellos, and how to ask questions.
Neighborhoods are really walkable and Uber is affordable. We're in Roma Norte, totally walkable, and you can walk to La Condesa. Polanco is really walkable, so you can walk from nightlife or restaurant to restaurant, or we're in this beautiful park just 10 minutes from our Airbnb.
So everything, you can get by. They have mass transit that seems pretty easy to use, but we haven't had to use it. The weather's been perfect. We've preferred walking everywhere.
And Uber is pretty darn cheap, like 10-minute taxi, or Uber is, not taxi, Uber is what, it's $5-7?
Yeah, like definitely less than $10, so it's been very affordable. One part of walking though is that the sidewalks are full of potholes, so just something to keep in mind, ladies, don't bring your heels if you're coming here. It's not worth it.
It's not even a thing.
Yeah, especially at night. It's hard to see. And then the other part of sidewalks is not only do you have to look down for the holes, you also need to look up for electrical wires hanging down. Scott is 6'2" and has had a couple hit him in the head.
It's a fun video game. This, jump. There's cheap food delivery with Didi. You found this app, it's been awesome. Yeah, it's like...
I was reading some Facebook groups about Mexico City before we came and while we've been here, and Didi came up a lot. It's very similar to Uber Eats, and they also have Uber Eats here, but Didi's cheaper, and I mean, delivery is like $1.50 US, and we've been able to get food and groceries.
So we had big water delivered because our Airbnb didn't have water delivery, so these huge jugs, and they brought it over, and yeah, it was really convenient.
Yeah, we love that. Another thing that I liked is nightlife specifically, or even during the day, the cafes and bars and restaurants, they're all very vibey and cool, and they play music, but it's not so loud that you can't hear yourself think or can't even have a conversation. So we're from like Miami area, and it's really nice to be somewhere that we can go out and socialize, but still have a conversation.
Yeah, there's like different types of vibes too, like plenty of choices, whether you're more relaxed or more
fancy.
Yeah, or upscale, totally different types. And they're, again, walkable distance, so it's really cool. And that leads us to the next thing, which are really delicious cocktails at reasonable prices. So we went to some high-end places, and in American dollars, it would come out to like $12, 50 cents a cocktail, or $15. Depending where you're from, that might sound like a lot, but these are like, an espresso martini with good alcohol in them. We didn't get any hangovers, anything like that. And you're in a nice establishment. On top of that, if you want cheaper, maybe $10 a cocktail. Something's even cheaper than that. Beer might be $5.
Yeah, wine's pretty cheap, around $10, I think, too. Another thing is the parks. So right now we're in Parque Mexico, or Parque Mexico, and it is beautiful. We'll show some footage of it. Really well kept. They don't allow a lot of vendors here, it seems like. It's very quiet. They even have like a serenity garden where people are taking naps. They don't let you play music or really talk out loud there. I mean, it's really nice. They also have like books you can pick up there.
Yeah, it's a unique place. I've never seen anything like that. We'll show some footage of that. But just the park is pretty big. Lots of parks here. There's another park called Parque España, which is like 2 blocks over. There's green areas everywhere. There's a huge park that's, would you say, is twice the size of Central Park?
Yeah, Chapultepec.
That one's more like family and loud, but there's like basically options. Like you want a park, you go find it.
And even in this park, there's a dog park within the park and a giant playground and like fountains. And I mean, where we're sitting, we're not that far from it, but it's pretty quiet, so that's really nice. And same thing with the Parque España.
Lots of restaurant options in Mexico City. I like to mix it up and not have the same kind of food all the time when we go out. So obviously, there's amazing Mexican food, like types that we haven't had at home. Like, for some reason, they've been withholding this from us in America.
Testal's our favorite so far.
Really good stuff we just haven't had. But we had really good Indian food. We had pretty good Thai food. Mm-hmm. There's a Polish restaurant we might try. There's just more international options than you might think, and there's You can get a full meal. We got a full meal for 2 of us for like $5.
Yeah.
Tacos and stuff like that in a restaurant, not on the
Yeah,
street.
you got to sit down and they like brought the food to you, so not a vendor. We also had great Italian food.
Yeah, great Italian food. It's all here. This is a great restaurant city. We were really surprised by that.
Yeah. So with the restaurants, you can find great deals even at sit-down places, but they will charge you per cup of coffee. So like if you're sitting at a place and you ask for a cafe con leche and it's not like a cappuccino or anything, they're gonna charge you per cup of coffee. It's not like at a diner in the US where they're gonna keep refilling that coffee and you're only paying for that 1 cup. So that was just something to keep in mind. It's not that expensive. I think it was only like $2 or $3, but
how was the coffee?
the coffee was really good. Yeah, it was just regular drip coffee, nothing special, and I put some milk in it, and they do charge you extra for the milk, which, okay, I can get by that, but the charging per cup, because it was like a regular small cup, I didn't love.
It'll be okay. Let's talk about tipping culture. That also surprised us. I really didn't know what to expect. In America, tipping culture is muy loco. But here, it's kind of confusing what you should tip. So we've read a lot. Maybe it's 10%. If you tip too much, then you kind of like make it harder for local people. But you know what? Every restaurant we've gone to, they're pretty much expecting a tip. Like when they give you the card machine, they're showing you it.
They're
Usually
asking,
yeah, they're asking. Or it's not annoying, I don't think, but it looks expected. It's like buttons for 10%, 15%, or 20%. There's even been some places where the 3 choices were 15, 20, or 25. But you can tip whatever you want. Sometimes I'll put out my calculator and show a number because I don't know how to say the numbers in Spanish or it's easy to misunderstand. Yeah, so I think we tip Uber.
About 10%.
Yeah, it's nothing like the U.S. as far as tipping culture. And if you
Right.
over-tip, it's probably not great.
Frowned upon, yeah.
But yeah, we do want to tip and support the local economy, especially the mom and pop places.
So, up until about 5 minutes ago, my favorite snack was a piedra con chocolate, which translates to stone with chocolate. It is like this giant cookie muffin thing with chocolate on top, and it's just like soft and kind of doughy, but you can get it at the Sumesa grocery store for 76 cents. So total bargain. But 5 minutes ago, we just had the churros from Churreria El Moro with dark chocolate dipping sauce. It blew my mind. I would still love the chocolate stones, but you know, these churros, I could eat them every day. They are so good. If you have a sweet tooth, you have to try it.
So we walked into Walmart. Why not? It's familiar. It's in the neighborhood. Whoa, it's fancy and expensive. It's like the bougie place to go. This was the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
There were customers walking by in tuxedos, top hats. It was
Okay, not tuxedos.
but it was the fancy store, and the prices were higher. And we like the Sumesa, what it was called.
Yeah,
It's
that's
also
the local.
also very nice, but the price was a little bit better. Yeah, weird.
Next is that credit cards are accepted pretty much anywhere, unless you're at a street vendor, which even some of the taco stands will have the credit card machine. You really don't need to carry a lot of cash, maybe just a little bit for random odd things. But
Maybe if you buy tacos on the street, a lot of them have the
yeah, but yeah, a lot of them have the card machine, so that's been really convenient, really nice that credit cards are accepted everywhere. It's
good
just,
for our points.
we do love the points.
We've really been pleasantly surprised by the weather. This is February. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's
We thought it was going to be much colder, so it does, during the day in February, it's been like 70 during the day, even 77 yesterday. It was unusually hot. And it could get down to what?
It said like 50 or high 40s when we were checking the weather before our trip, and it's been probably in the low 50s, but that's not until like midnight, so before then, I don't know, we've pretty much lived in 70 to 60 degree weather, and it's been...
Yeah, you brought a heavy jacket and haven't needed it.
Yeah, I felt really silly for carrying that all this way. Okay, so another thing, the parks here are beautiful, but we did go to Chapultepec Park first. That place is huge, and it is so loud. We went on a Sunday, and all of the local families are out there, and it is crawling with vendors, and they're screaming at you, and it's like a giant carnival on steroids, and it's a little bit of, it's overstimulating, so.
It was the opposite of this park, which
Yeah.
is very, very peaceful.
Yeah, and serene. Definitely worth going to, but just know what you're about to get yourself into.
So in that park, we were surprised, you can go to the castle, but we were surprised that you couldn't bring water into the grounds of the castle. It's really, I mean, it could be hot, and it was, and we're very thirsty, so that was kind of unusual.
It was during the daytime and the sun was out, and they didn't have water fountains or anything, and obviously you can't just like drink water out of the sink here, so that was odd.
Happy surprise.
Happy surprise, Mexico City loves dogs, and I love dogs. You love dogs, we all love dogs, but everybody here has, I think if we lived here for an extended period of time, we would have to get a dog.
It's mandatory.
And all the dogs are so chill, like there's dog parks, but a lot of people don't walk their dog on a leash if their dog is really well behaved, and I mean, dogs are welcome in the grocery stores, at the restaurants. It's a very dog-friendly city.
And they're cute dogs too.
Very cute.
There's not as much homelessness or open drug use that we've seen in other cities. So New York City, for example, or maybe Brussels or
Miami?
Miami.
Paris.
In Paris, yeah. So you just don't see that as much here. At least we haven't yet. And you know, we're in the parks, you do see some homeless people. There's some begging like any big city, but not nearly like anything else we've experienced.
Yeah, if you just say no thank you and smile and you walk away.
This is a really family-friendly city, period.
Right. One thing that did surprise me is that they do allow smoking in some restaurants, not all the restaurants, but we were at a restaurant and they had like a second level. It was on the rooftop, but they had glass, and then they had, it was kind of enclosed, a temporary enclosement that they could like lift up. But anyways, some restaurants, they do allow smoking, so I thought that was kind of backwards. Although we did go into an OXXO, which is like a 7-Eleven yesterday, and behind the counter they are selling cigarettes, but on the cigarette boxes they show like sick children, which is sad, but you know, that's a good, hopefully discourage her.
We were surprised by, I guess, the feel of the city. So some of it feels like New York City as far as some of the upscale part. Some of it feels like Brooklyn, if you're familiar with that, like a little more
Cafe culture, people with like an independent spirit, alternative type stuff. Yeah, the neighborhoods, each neighborhood is pretty different. And we should talk about that too a little bit as far as the walkability, like in the bubble, what do they say? Yeah, so the bubble is, from our knowledge, is Roma Norte, La Condesa, Polanco, and maybe like a little bit of Juarez. Mm-hmm. And we've been to each one now, and Polanco's very upscale and fancy, very family friendly, like tons of families. Roma Norte and La Condesa to us feel very similar, and probably a younger crowd, but definitely seems like digital nomads are here. They're all out working at the cafes. It's very chill. And then Juarez is a little more edgy, and has maybe some trendier restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it kind of feels like a little bit of a mix of New York and Miami. That doesn't really describe the city perfectly.
Maybe Miami aesthetics, but New York vibes.
Yeah.
So another thing, which everyone warned us before Mexico City, or at least all the research warned us, was that Mexico City is very loud. But if you take a second, which we'll pause here, this park is really quiet.
The city is somehow loud and quiet.
Right. So it really depends on, I think, the neighborhood, because we went to Centro Historico, so the historical center part of Mexico City, and that was wild and chaotic and very loud. And even where we're staying in Roma Norte, we get a lot of like road noise from cars, like honking and just loud motorbikes.
But sometimes it's really, really quiet. It's not constant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're 10 minutes. We're inside a park. It's the middle of the day. It's about almost 3 o'clock on a Monday, and there's tons of people out here, and yet it's very quiet.
So we were surprised about crossing the streets. So sometimes they have like a light and it tells you exactly how many seconds you have to cross the street. Wow, that's pretty cool. Other times there is no light to indicate how to cross the street. So I'm like looking at the car traffic light, like, oh, they have a red, I think we're good. Just don't get by a turning car. And
right.
Sometimes there's nothing at all. Like you just pass, pedestrians have the right of way. I haven't found it too hard to cross the street. Like some places in some countries, like,
yeah, we heard like Southeast Asia can be really scary.
even like in Amsterdam, like there's a trolley coming and a bicycle and a car and a pedestrian, and you're just like, whoa. Here, pay attention, but it's not.
Yeah, watch out for like the motorbikes, but aside from that, it's been good.
Let's hit them with our last surprise.
The safety and crime. So we did a lot of research before this trip, a lot of reading, like Reddit boards and Facebook groups and YouTube videos. People had warned us, like, the cops, like, kind of avoid them because sometimes they'll take your stuff, they'll shake you down. We haven't had any issues. We've seen a lot of cops out, and we've felt very safe. I've seen a lot of girls that are walking around by themselves, even at night. And so, I mean, if you're a female abroad, I mean, you got to feel pretty safe to be walking by yourself, I think.
Even just the feel of the city. So I'm from New York City originally, and we've been to Paris and Brussels.
And Frankfurt, yeah.
And Frankfurt. And you might just feel unsafe, not because anyone did anything to you, but just like how people might look angry or how they're dressed or groups of people. This city feels the opposite. It's very, very family friendly. Like we're out at night, we see families. People seem like pretty respectful. There's no one who's like catcalled you.
No.
Or we haven't seen that, see somebody else to like make you feel uncomfortable. We haven't seen anyone who looks like they're looking for trouble, right? Like you just don't see that.
Even like homeless people or whatever, they're minding their own business. They're not bugging you. There's some people like sitting on the ground begging, but again, they're not persistent or anything like that, and they just politely ask.
And we're being aware. It's a big city, so like, I can say there's no crime, and anything can happen anywhere.
Yeah,
we're not flashing cash or anything, but we're recording this now with your iPhone.
Yeah, the phone's on a tripod.
We hold the phone out a lot. No one's trying to snatch the phone from us. I mean, again, we'll make a follow-up video on a new iPhone if that happens, but hope not. But yeah, it seems the most dangerous thing here really has been the huge holes in the sidewalk and the wires.
Yeah, the electrical wires.
If you survive that, I think you'll be good.
Yeah.
So those are our 23 surprising things about Mexico City.
If you experienced any of these, or maybe you had a totally different experience, we'd love to hear about it, so let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and you can join our email list to never miss a video on touchdownmoney.com.